NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool was NXT UK's first takeover special. Did it live up to the hype? Yeah. Yeah, it definitely did. I'm Harry Bailey and this is my review of NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool. So opening the show, we are met with a very well made promo package, just hyping up the show in general, and we are instantly introduced to the fact that yes, Pete Dunne is the guy in this division. Opening the show, we have Moustache Mountain versus the Grizzled Young Vets to crown the inaugural WWE NXT UK Tag Team Champions. And the crowd were incredible here. They were doing your standard British crowd stuff at like any sort of sporting event. You had your shoes off chants, you had your stand up chants, you had your sit down chants, all aimed at Zack, Gibson, who was an absolute star here. So it started off with some incredible tag team sequences that were just sort of typical of British wrestling today. And Seven, early on in the match, begins to sell his injured right arm at the hands of the Grizzled Young Vets, Zack Gibson and James Drake. The heels have total control, but eventually Seven does manage to tag in Bate. We get an amazing double airplane spin from Bate onto Drake and Gibson at the same time. Then we get a shooting star off the apron to the floor from Tyler Bate onto the Grizzled Young Vets whilst they're standing up. It was amazing. Moustache Mountain then go for the British Bulldog finish with the diving headbutt, but only get a 2 count. And Gibson kicks out. Then we get a burning hammer from Seven, but James Drake breaks up the pinfall. Gibson then hits a Ticket to Ride onto Tyler Bate. Then a Helter Skelter onto Trent Seven, the legal man, who then eats a 450 from James Drake, but only gets a 2 count in a shocking kick out. Most people thought that was it. Next we get an incredibly tense moment where Zack Gibson gets Trent Seven into the Shankly Gates, and when Tyler Bate tries to come in and help his partner, Drake then gets Bate into the Shankly Gates, and both Moustache Mountain members are in Shankly Gates, and we are convinced because of the injured arm that he was selling at the start of the match, Trent is definitely going to tap here. But Tyler powers James Drake up and basically just launches him at the other 2 men in the match. Everyone's down. Cue gigantic crowd reaction. Everyone's just so into this match. It was just fantastic tag team action. Drake gets hit by that lariat / suplex combination that I can't remember the name of from Moustache Mountain, but gets only a 2 count. Drake kicks out. That was a big moment for him personally, because most people do not kick out of that move. Then we get this crazy spot where Tyler Bate is on Zack Gibson's shoulders on the outside, and a tope suicida from James Drake to the outside takes Bate completely out of the match. Seven's like, well, shit. He realises he's fucked. So with his last roll of the dice, goes, you know what, I'll just attempt a suicide dive. If I take him out, we have a chance. If I don't, I mean, what else was he going to do? Misses the suicide dive, gets brought inside. Ticket to Mayhem, and your new tag team champions of the NXT UK division are the Grizzled Young Vets, Zack Gibson and James Drake. This was a fantastic opener, an amazing tag team match that you expect from these two teams. But when they worked together and they were just working their asses off because they knew this was the biggest show of their lives, it just worked out so amazingly. Brilliant, brilliant opener. Next up we get Jordan Devlin versus Finn Balor. Obviously, Devlin had attacked Travis Banks, his initial opponent, in the hotel or the arena beforehand, and then just attacked him at the start of the match as well before the bell even rang, completely just taking Travis Banks out by stomping on his leg repeatedly on the steps. Finn Balor is sent in as the sub. What a sub that is! Oh my god! So Balor is the shock backup opponent, and we are now met with a student versus teacher dynamic that I didn't know I wanted so much until I saw it. This was a very, very good match. So before Balor even came out, Devlin had Devlin had announced that he was the Irish wrestler, the best Irish wrestler in the world. So this whole match, what did he do? Well, initially, Balor just kind of chased him around the place, locking off all exits, hunting down Devlin. But Devlin started to prove himself. Balor, on his way back into the ring, basically just gets a dick kick. Devlin kicks the ropes, which, you know, when he's coming into the ring, doesn't work out well, but he doesn't get disqualified. Referee was using his leniency there. And from then on, Devlin proceeds to mock and wear down Finn Balor by doing all the demon taunts and all that sort of stuff. Great stuff. Finn goes for his first attempt at a coup de grace in the match, but is met by a huge vertical leap drop kick from Jordan Devlin, sending him outside. Very impressive from Devlin. Very Shelton Benjamin-esque, if you don't mind. What the fuck am I even saying? Devlin drop kicks him from the top rope to the outside, however. Then we get a standing moonsault, which was really cool. Kicks out. Then Devlin kicks out of a Bloody Sunday, or 1916. We got to see both of them in the match, and I can't remember which one happened first. Again, this just happened. I'm sorry, guys. You're going to kill me in the comments anyway, so. Despite my lack of professionalism, anyways, Devlin then manages to hit what Nigel McGuinness calls a high angle backdrop driver. It looked like just a very, very impressive sort of suplex with a nice bit beforehand. It's almost like a ripcord suplex. It was weird. Very cool though, but a 2 count. Balor does kick out and goes for another coup de grace, but gets caught. Devlin then goes for a dirty pin, feet on the ropes, roll up, but Balor kicks out. Balor eventually does get to the top and hits a coup de grace for the win. So yeah, it was a very good match. Not as good as the opener or the main event, but a very good match. A dynamic that really worked. They told a good story, and you know what? I'll probably watch it back in the future. The no disqualification match between Eddie Dennis and Dave Mastiff was up next. Opening up the match, Eddie Dennis just kind of abused Dave Mastiff with a Singapore cane, as they call it on commentary. But eventually, after like a headbutt and using the cane for a while and a power bomb, Mastiff does manage to get control. Dennis actually catches Mastiff really impressively into like an East River crossing onto the steps in the ring. It just showed off how strong the guy is. Very, very impressive. The one thing that you will take from this match is just how impressive the two guys are. It wasn't an incredibly worked match, but the two guys really did play to their strengths. Dennis hits an incredible 7 bridge, I think they called it on commentary. It's basically just a razor's edge, but he kind of throws them over instead of... It's weird. It is different to a razor's edge, but very minutely. Anyway, it was freakish strength from the Welshman, but it only gets 2. Dave Mastiff does in fact kick out. Mastiff then hits a rolling senton on the exposed floor on the outside. He then goes for like not a split-legged moonsault, but something similar to that, just on the one rope, sort of a springboard moonsault. Misses. Anyway, Dennis hits a next stop driver, which only gets a 2 count. I think McGuinness highlighted that was his finisher, and there was a lot of finisher kickouts in this show. That is one thing you'll take from it. Anyway, Mastiff puts Eddie Dennis through a table in the corner with a cannonball and wins. Interesting finish. Not the best match by any means, but it was a good match. It was a fun match. Both guys looked great. In defeat, Eddie Dennis still looked like a freakishly strong competitor, and then obviously Dave Mastiff won, so like he's not gonna come off weak after a performance like that as well. So yeah, it was a fine match. It was good. It was pretty good. Segment. Next up, one of the 2 big matches on the card. It's your semi-main event, I guess you could call it. The challenger, Toni Storm, the champion, Rhea Ripley. The NXT UK Women's Championship is on the line. Ripley opens up pretty dominant, except for a really nice lope suicida from Toni Storm. That was actually really cool. She also then hits like a headbutt after Rhea's sort of dominance to get back into it, and then we get the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens hockey fight spot, which was cool. The two counter each other's finishers for a while, exchange roll-ups and submissions, just showing off that the two actually had really good chemistry together. There was a few sort of stumbles, and there was actually it was like an awkward exchange where there was sort of a pause, but then Ripley hit her finisher kind of out of nowhere because there was just that weird sort of pause. But Storm does kick out at 2. A brilliant headbutt from Storm. She is so good at those. And then a Storm Zero, which I'm pretty sure is just a title driver. But Ripley does kick out at 2. Storm basically hits a Storm Zero then from out of nowhere, gets the 3, and your new NXT UK Women's Champion is Toni Storm. Just a very feel-good moment. Euphoric ending for someone that's gone through a pretty shitty time at the minute, so I'm happy for her.
Segment.
Now for your main event. The 603-day United Kingdom Championship reign is in jeopardy as the champion Pete Dunne is challenged by the Iron King, Joe Coffey. And I really did like the promo package beforehand. I will point that out. A lot of the matches had promo packages, but I really did like this one in particular. I just thought it was very well made. The match almost had a New Japan feel, where it started off a little bit slow and just built itself up to this massive crescendo, and you can really tell when it starts to build up when they go to the outside for the first time. Notice the spot from there just being, I don't know, a pop-up power slam from Joe Coffey to Pete Dunne onto the ring ramp. That's a pretty big spot for me to just throw in there, but yeah, this had a lot of great moments, and that was just one of the first big ones. Coffey seems to just ruthlessly target Dunne's back, but then Dunne manages to hit an X-Plex out of nowhere, but because he's one of the best wrestlers in the world in my opinion, instantly sells how it hurt his back, because Pete Dunne gets wrestling. Coffey then gets this really cool sequence together, but it only manages to manner a 2 count, then proceeds to continue to try and get the upper hand, but a really well placed forearm from Pete Dunne results in a bitter end, and Joe Coffey kicks out. Yep, you didn't see that coming. Joe Coffey kicks out at the bitter end. Then the two sort of brawl onto the apron, and Joe Coffey hits a powerbomb onto Dunne on the apron, but it wasn't like an apron powerbomb from Kevin Owens. It was like the two were actually on, like physically on the apron, and he powerbombed him. It was a bit mad, and they just about made the 10 count. Then they come in, best of the bells, basically just discus lariat from the Iron King, only gets a 2 count, but then from the top rope, we get a top rope powerbomb from from Joe Coffey. Whew, this really did kick into another gear, didn't it? There was standing ovations and everything in this match. It really was just amazing. We have a great moment then where the two are down and they just sort of get up slowly in either corner and just stare into each other's souls, and then meet in the middle of the ring, just start hammering away at each other with punches. And one, like the final punch, the left hook from Joe Coffey, literally knocked the gum shield out of Pete Dunne's mouth, which was pretty cool. That even gets a "Are you watching Vince McMahon" chant, which he even replied to on Twitter. It was really cool. Like, that's not something that happens, so that was really cool. Big up to the UK crowd. Really, really good. Coffey then goes for Dunne's finisher, but Dunne counters it into a DDT, then proceeds to hit the bitter end, but he's too fatigued to get to make the cover before Coffey manages to roll out of the ring. I know that I described that one sentence with way too many words than it needed, but yeah, Coffey avoided getting pinned by just simply rolling out of the ring. That's how you say it. The two twice got up to the top rope. The first time they just sort of collapsed off. And the second time they were collapsing, and Joe Coffey brilliantly just grabs Pete Dunne and takes him to the outside with him. Really cool. Then they go inside the ring. Power slam from Joe Coffey out of nowhere. 1, 2, kick out from Pete Dunne. Another amazing near fall. This match had so many amazing near falls. Dunne hits a third bitter end. 1, 2. The crowd thought it was 3, but no. Joe Coffey kicks out of the third bitter end, and you can hear the crowd are audibly just sent into shock. But Pete Dunne did his, I like to just call it his finger breaker submission. I don't even know if it has a name. He's done it plenty of times in Progress. He basically goes for a triangle, but he mounts the top and just proceeds to break all your fingers. Hence the finger breaker. And Joe Coffey taps out, and that's the end of the match. This was amazing. Whew. So it started off quite slow, built up to this incredible crescendo submission victory for the champ. He retains, his reign goes on. Everyone's just like, oh my god, I've just witnessed some amazing ass wrestling. And then Walter comes out. Yeah, Walter has come out. And he just boots Joe Coffey in the face. So he's with WWE, and I have mixed feelings on that anyway. But this is his proper, full-on WWE debut. He comes out to the ring, stares at Pete Dunne. We're going to get Walter versus Pete Dunne. Fuck. So, to summarise, the show started off incredibly. Then we had another good match. Then we had a pretty decent match. Then we had another good match. Then we had an amazing match. This show had nothing that disappointed. There was no disappointments. There were 2 marquee matches here. There were 2 fantastic matches. And those matches were Moustache Mountain versus Zack Gibson and James Drake for the NXT United Kingdom Tag Team Championships, and your main event, the WWE UK Championship match between Pete Dunne and Joe Coffey. Thank you guys so much for watching. My final grade for WWE NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool is an A-.